Accuracy is a major factor in raid. Usually. It's very important, but not always. Most of the time, though, let's just make sure you fully understand accuracy. Finally, he sleeps here with another Raid Shadow Legends video in the Just the Tip series. Today, we're going to talk about the accuracy stat. Everything you wanted to know and the stuff you didn't know you didn't know. Something like that. First, though, make sure you subscribe here at YouTube. Turn on notifications so you never miss when a video goes live. It's simple, it's free, but it does make a big difference here on the channel. One of the most common stats in Raid is accuracy. There's a lot of confusion around exactly what accuracy is, what it does, and when it's needed. In essence, accuracy helps determine whether a debuff or turn meter control event will take place. Now, notice I said helps. That's because this is secondary to three other factors. First, there is always, according to Plarium, a 3% chance of a debuff or turn meter control not landing, unless it's a guaranteed, such as Baron's A2, which specifically states this debuff is guaranteed. Second, debuffs do not land on weak hits. So if the hit is weak, then accuracy doesn't matter. Plus, remember there's a 35% chance that any hit will be weak when you're fighting against an opponent who has an affinity advantage over you. Now, third, every debuff and turn meter control event has a built-in likelihood of landing. This can either be in the set itself, such as with the Toxic set, which has a 75% chance of placing 2.5% poison debuff when you have 4 of them on the same champion. Now, this percentage occurs before the accuracy ever comes into play. There's also a percentage of a debuff landing from a champion's active skills too. As with Ultimate Death Knight's A2, where it says there is a 50% chance of decrease attack landing and an 80% chance of landing fear on legendaries. Again, this percentage occurs before accuracy ever comes into play. Some champions have skills that circumvent the inherent percentage of landing, though. Herndyg's A3, for example, has a 100% chance of placing HP burn on any enemy he critical hits whose turn meter is below 30%. Better yet, Dracomorph's A2 looks like it has a 100% chance of placing a poison after each of his 4 hits because it doesn't give a percentage at all, which is correct. So you're probably thinking for Draco, to land these 4 poisons on his A2, you don't need any accuracy. No accuracy is required, and if you thought that, you'd be wrong. This just means there is no inherent percentage you have to get past before accuracy comes into play. His A3 is the same way, a 100% chance of landing. But you need to remember this is all before accuracy comes into play, not in spite of it. Now, those 3 factors come into play. First, does the RNG take it down as part of the 3% of turns that do not land? Second, is it a weak hit? And third, is the inherent percentage of it landing is what does it beat those 3? If it does, and it passes all 3 of those first, then it comes to a battle of accuracy versus resistance. That means both Dracomorph and Herndig still need accuracy to land their debuffs, despite their skills saying they land 100% of the time. It's your accuracy versus the enemy's resistance. If you look into the bottom right corner here on RTAC, you'll see his resistance stat at 69, but his accuracy is at 443. Now, as I just said, if he makes it through the first 3 rounds of whether or not a debuff or turn meter control event can land, then it comes down to his accuracy, 443 in this case, versus the opponent's resistance. Now, as long as his accuracy is higher than the opponent's resistance, the debuff will land, or the turn meter control effect will take place. Now, in Artak's case, he has a very high likelihood of his HP burns landing. At the same time, though, because his resistance is so low, he's also highly susceptible to getting debuffs. So basically accuracy is important, but there are other factors that come into play, like, because it's inherent percentage and all the other stuff, that the RNG 3%, maybe it won't land. So when is accuracy not important at all? First, no matter what accuracy you have, if the opponent has a block debuffs buff, then none of your debuffs are going to land no matter what you do, regardless if your accuracy is 1 or 1000. Some champions land debuffs no matter what, without accuracy or any other factor coming into play. Remember that guaranteed debuff on Baron's A2? Since that's the only debuff he can deal out, there's no point in putting any accuracy on him whatsoever, because that one is actually a guaranteed debuff. Now, also there are some champs that have debuffs that cannot be resisted. Some champions do not require accuracy at all because of it. That's because they have those skills that land debuffs and they actually say cannot be resisted. If they can't be resisted, no accuracy is needed. Elder Skarg's A3 has no inherent percentage to overcome, and all of the debuffs cannot be resisted. That means no accuracy is required, and the only thing keeping them from landing is the 3% RNG. This isn't a hit based debuff land either, so you don't even have to worry about the 35% chance of it being a weak hit if there's an affinity disadvantage against a spirit champion. Umbral Enchantress is another one of these. There are a lot of champions in the game with skills that land debuffs that cannot be resisted. Delver, Thea the Tomb Angel, Mortu Macabre, Cupidus are just a few. Just pay attention to their skills and look for debuffs that cannot be resisted. Hopefully that clarifies accuracy to an extent, and subsequently resistance on the flip side. It all boils down to paying close attention to the fine print and factoring out what's actually involved in whether or not anyone's debuffs are going to land. If that helped, please consider subscribing here at YouTube. It's a small gesture that goes a long way toward the growth of the channel. I'm Finally He Sleeps. Thanks for hanging out, and as always, as long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making videos.